Hello, and welcome to a new episode of my podcast, Let's Talk About Astrology. My name is Dr. Sabine Hennig-Helbig, and I will show you here some insights about astrology which you might not know and which is perhaps interesting anyway for those who are really in astrology. So, in the last episodes, I showed you about ancient principles. In this episode, however, I want to invite you to dive a little deeper and learn about an ancient technique that combines all shown concepts, which were Sect, Dignities, and Triplicities. In Hellenistic Astrology, the rulers of signs, which are planets that are traditionally associated with certain zodiac signs, were named lords. Whenever they are located in these signs, they are called to be in domicile. This goes back to Dignities principle, which I also introduced in an earlier episode. In this technique, we add the rulership of triplicities. We learned that triplicities are the elements fire, earth, air, and water. And we have signs associated with that. 3 to each, which makes 12 zodiac signs. And here we want to do more specifically the identification of triplicities rulers of the sect light. The triplicity rulers are an alternative form of sign rulerships, but assigned according to a different rationale, which is based on the concept of dignities. Each triplicity is assigned 3 planetary rulers, a day ruler, a night ruler, and a cooperating ruler. The planets that are primary or secondary change places depending on day or night charts, while the cooperating ruler always stays the same. I will explain that. Perhaps it is a good idea also to look back into the episode about Sect that I have created in this podcast. So I start with the first triplicity in fire. The rationale goes like that. All fire signs are masculine, so consequently only diurnal planets can be taken into consideration as possible rulers. The Sun, Jupiter, and Mars have their domicile in each of the fire signs. Mars must be excluded as it is a nocturnal planet. The Sun is considered to be more diurnal and it is exalted in Aries, so it becomes the primary ruler of the fire triplicity. Jupiter then becomes the secondary or night ruler. Saturn has no dignities in the fire triplicity but remains as only diurnal planet and so becomes the cooperating ruler. Thus, let's capitalize, in a day chart the order of the fire triplicity lord is Sun, Jupiter, and lately the cooperating Saturn. The Earth triplicity rationale. Earth is composed of only feminine signs, so the nocturnal planets must be their rulers. The only inherently nocturnal planet which owns a domicile in this triplicity is Venus, so it becomes the first ruler by day. Saturn and Mercury rule the other 2 domiciles, Capricorn and Virgo, but they are excluded because they are no nocturnal planets. Mars is exalted in Capricorn and Moon in Taurus, but the Moon is considered to be more nocturnal. So it gets the second or nocturnal rulership, and Mars becomes the cooperating ruler. Thus, in a day chart, the order of the Earth triplicity lord is Venus, Moon, Mars. Let's go to the air triplicity rationale. In this, we have only masculine signs, so it should be ruled by diurnal planets. Venus is being excluded for being a nocturnal planet. Mercury has its domicile in Gemini, and it is kept despite the fact that it is neutral when it comes to the sect. Saturn is the only diurnal planet, and it has both a domicile and exaltation in this triplicity, so it becomes the primary ruler by day. Mercury becomes the secondary or night ruler. The Sun and Jupiter are only remaining diurnal planets. Jupiter becomes the cooperating ruler for unknown reasons. Thus, in a day chart, the order of the air triplicity is Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter. Let's move to the water rational. Similar to the earth signs, we have only feminine signs here. Consequently, only nocturnal planets are considered as rulers. Jupiter is excluded as a diurnal planet. Both Mars and the Moon have its domiciles in this triplicity, while Venus has exaltation here. Venus becomes the primary ruler of the water signs. By day, Mars is made the secondary or nocturnal ruler. The Moon becomes the cooperating ruler here. So the order in the water triplicity lords is in a day chart Venus, Mars, and Moon. This sect light technique goes back to Valens and Dorotheus. Valens gave it more intensity when introducing this technique in his second book of anthology. For him, this rulership method helps to determine general support or foundation of the native's lifetime. How are the triplicity rulers of the sect light identified? First, we recapitulate what was said about the ruler scheme of the triplicity ruler. You can see a table here in this video. Then we need to identify the three lords of each triplicity depending on sect light that are differentiated into a first, second, and cooperating planet as explained. We can see the table here. So fire, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, which have the Sun as the day ruler, the night ruler is Jupiter, and the participant or cooperating ruler is Saturn. Further, the earth signs with Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, with the day ruler being Venus, night ruler Moon, and participant or participating or cooperating ruler Mars. Okay, further, the air signs Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, which have as day ruler Saturn, night ruler Mercury, and the cooperating or participant is Jupiter. Later, we have finally, we have the water signs, which are, of course, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Here we have the first ruler by day, the Venus, the second is Mars, and Moon is the cooperating planet. For determining the sect light triplicity rulers, you look first if you are dealing with a day or a night chart. Okay, let's look for an example, which will always be more clear. So we have here Whitney Houston's chart. She was a famous singer in the last couple of centuries and was very famous in US and all over the world. So when we look at her natal chart, which is of course given in the house system of whole houses, which is very important to understand in Hellenistic astrology, we look for porphyr or for whole house system, where it makes sense to identify and to interpret charts in these times. So when we look at her chart, we see that she has a night chart, which makes the Moon her sect light. You can see here in Aries and in the second house with Pisces rising. In the scheme we learned earlier, we have therefore Jupiter, which is staying right aside her Moon, as the primary triplicity ruler in fire signs with night charts. which is located in a succeedent house, which is in the middle of rising and falling. So this is the succeeding house, called the succeeding house. In its own triplicity, because Jupiter belongs to the fire element. Okay, the sun thereof is in the secondary triplicity lord, as we showed in the table, and it's in its own domicile in Leo. It's in a cadent or falling house in the sixth, which we can see here, and opposite Saturn, which is, of course, the cooperating ruler in a fire night chart and day chart as well. As the old ruler of Aquarius, the Saturn makes it is standing in its domicile, but also in a falling or declined 12th house, as we see here. Looking at Whitney's life, she was a very successful singer and musician, as said. From around the age of 20, her life became increasingly unstable after developing a drug habit. She drowned in a hotel bathtub at the age of 48. So the two subsequent rulers of the sect unfolded in two parts of her lifetime. The first half of life was extremely lucky and successful, with Jupiter supporting her. But later, when the Sun as the second ruler took over, she fell deep, with a cooperating Saturn, most malefic in a night chart, directly opposing the Sun, which is contrary to the sect, both in the cadent place, falling 6 to falling 12. This is, of course, very sad, and it is an identification or interpreting the whole life of Whitney in a very small and very core identification with these triplicity rulers principle. Valens said always and underlined that this method should not be used as a single one, but in conjunction with other techniques, such as lots, which will be explained here for sure, because the delineation of the lots will be discussed in a following podcast episode. Important questions here for triplicity rulers of sect light could be: is the triplicity ruler in an angular 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house, in a succeedent house, 2nd, 5th, 8th, or 11th house, or in a declining or falling house, the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th house place, always in whole sign system? Second question, is it in its own domicile, exalted, or in a triplicity even? Third, is it of the sect in favor of contrary to the sect? Or contrary, in favor or contrary to the sect? Is it favorably configured to the benefic of sect? Is it unfavorably configured to the malefic contrary to sect? What is the condition of the domicile lord of the triplicity ruler? All these questions can be asked, and if you want to know deeper for your own chart, you can have a try and give it a try like I did for Whitney's whole sign Hellenistic chart, which is very explaining her life and gave it in a short nutshell what was happening during her unfavorable short life, which ended sadly in a very miracle and secret death. So far, I'm done, and I hope you enjoyed this Hellenistic circle, interesting principles and concepts, which I try to introduce in this very small and very dense episodes. The next one will be in March, and in March I will start with the new astrology year with Aries sign, and we have the eclipses. Moon eclipse starts on the 14th, and in the end of the month we have the sun eclipse all over in Aries. So stay focused, stay lucky, and I hope we see each other soon. Bye-bye. Enjoy your time.